Hey guys, this is an excerpt from my fantasy novel, The Price of Renewal. I just released this new copy with a brand new cover. I did this over quite some time, drawing each of these characters and putting them together, and it's just a much sleeker looking, awesome new edition of the book. You can get this on Amazon in paperback, hardcover, and ebook. But if the price is too high for anyone and you'd still like to get your hands on the book, I also just released a brand new mass market paperback edition, which is about 4.5 by 7 inches, so quite a bit smaller than this one. And that one is going for only $10. So go ahead and pick up your copy today over on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. And let's go ahead and get on with this excerpt. The Price of Renewal by Austin Buffington. Chapter 6. The haunting gloom of the increasingly stormy sky cloaked Naya as she roamed the stone path lining the citadel's perimeter. The great stars seemed to vanish as clouds stretched from Aether Peak, covering Stonereach in a blanket of desolation. Naya's stomach let out a cry of agitation, commanding her to fulfill her duty to find something to eat. Upon reaching the citadel's entrance, its drawbridge wide open and welcoming weary travelers, she pivoted to begin making her way down the city's main street. Both sides of Stonereach's central road were lined with businesses of all kinds: bakeries, blacksmiths, tailors, alchemists, and the Stonereach General Store were only a few among the countless buildings that followed the road up to the castle that housed King Thalric and his family. The street currently appeared to be far more crowded than normal, even more crowded than the market where Naya had gotten her only meal of the day. She scanned both sides of the road in search of the perfect mark to be the victim of her crime, the crime of acquiring her dinner for the night. To her left, she saw a man standing in front of the Shattered Shield, the most popular smithery in town. The man was elderly and frail, but appeared to be very aware of his surroundings, making eye contact with Naya as she glanced in his direction. To her right, Naya saw a woman that was clearly oblivious, gazing up at the dark clouds that now enveloped Stonereach in shadow. She would have been an ideal target, except that a tall, muscular man stood directly beside her, seeming to take care of the awareness for her. Finally, as Naya approached a dark alley that split between the general store and a leather shop, she caught sight of a thin, well-groomed man who looked to be asleep. The man sat with his back against one of the brick walls. His chin was tucked into the breast of his clean, untainted black tunic that he had clearly just recently purchased. His eyes were shut. Beside the man, a large leather knapsack sat on the ground, bulging with what Naya could only imagine must be treasures beyond her wildest dreams. Perfect, she thought, slipping toward the alley. He's out cold. Naya reached the corner of the general store, just feet away from where the leather bag sat freely. If she grabbed the bag and ran, the man would be none the wiser. If he were to awaken, however, she would not have enough time to make it to the rooftops. The man shifted his body. Perhaps he was only lightly resting. Nonetheless, Naya needed to eat, as she was promptly reminded by her gut. With a quick glance toward the street, she confirmed that no eyes were watching her, then moved in to execute her mission. With one swift motion, she scooped up the bag, noticing the man stir, then seemed to awaken from his slumber. As his eyes opened, Naya darted out of the alley, then her boots were clomping against the rough cobblestone of the central street. "Hey!" the voice called out from behind Naya as she sprinted down the road, shoving bystanders aside in the process. "Stop! That's my bag!" Naya didn't have time to think. She would much rather be taking her usual path upon the skyline than having to rudely force her way through the crowded roads. But if she took time to make the climb, her pursuer would surely catch her. "I need that. It's all I have," the voice called out again, sounding closer this time. "Damn it, Naya. You've really done it this time." Her thoughtful mind taunted her as she continued her hasteful escape. The street was packed with people, a sea of bodies swarming every open space, making her retreat all the more difficult. Naya's pulse raced as she continued her escape, trying hard to reel in her mind and think. Finally, she made it to an opening in the crowd and began to focus. Once she got to the other side of the clearing, she would slow her pace and attempt to blend in with the crowd. Hopefully, it would buy her some time. Satisfied with her plan, she wheeled her head around to assess the situation behind her, still plowing her way down the open section of the road. From behind, Naya saw the man in the black tunic, her latest victim, pushing his way through two agitated bystanders and stepping out into the section where the crowd had parted. He was only a few yards behind her now. She needed to keep moving. Thud! Naya felt her foot smack into something, then stumbled and hit the uneven stone pathway with a smack. Stricken with alarm, she rolled onto her back and saw a stray barrel rolling across the clearing. The man was only a few steps away now. Her capture was inevitable. She scrambled to her feet and braced herself for the impact. With her four-fingered hand raised to cushion the blow, Naya watched as the man that was after her slowed to a halt and placed his hands on his knees, gasping for air. Realizing now that he did not intend to tackle or grab her, she lowered her arm to join its twin in securing the leather bag. "Please," the man pleaded between desperate breaths. "If money is what you're after, you are more than welcome to have some, but I need the rest of my belongings." Naya once again found herself conflicted in the aftermath of one of her thefts. For the second time in her many years of thievery, her crime was met not with aggression and retaliation, but calm generosity. She made it a point to not let her guilt get in the way of her survival, yet these incomprehensible displays of kindness made that difficult. Wearing an expression of slight defeat, Naya unfastened the leather straps of the man's knapsack and dipped her hand inside. One by one, she withdrew various items from the bag in search of money or food. Eventually, she felt the hard, stale exterior of a baked biscuit and promptly stuffed it into her mouth. The taste was bland and turned her already dehydrated palate into a desert. As she swallowed the dry, chewed-up bit of hardtack, so too did she attempt to swallow her growing sense of remorse. The man before her appeared to have nothing on his person now that his bag of possessions was in her grasp. With a soothing jingle, Naya withdrew from the bag a small leather pouch. From this, she removed a handful of silver coins, but could not fight the pulsing demand of her conscience to leave half. She slipped the coins into the pocket of her ragged canvas pants, then replaced the pouch into the bag and continued digging around. Naya was struck with a pulse of intrigued confusion as the incomplete set of fingers on her right hand gripped a familiar, rough wooden shape. She challenged the man before her with an inquisitive glance and removed the item from his bag. Nestled in her grip was a recognizable carved totem, a mirror image of the one she kept hidden under the rug in her hideout. She noticed the man's face morph into an expression of fear and desperation at the sight of her holding the item. "Not that, please," the man said, now hesitantly reaching toward her. "Where did you get this?" Naya asked, pulling the totem out of the man's reach. "My mentor gave it to me, back at, The man looked around to ensure that nobody was paying attention. Realizing that nobody appeared to be particularly interested in their little squabble, he lowered his voice to a hushed whisper. "At the High Chapel. My name is Aldenor Brightlock. I am a Reverend of the Covenant of Renewal." This meant nothing to Naya, but she intended to learn more. A chapel meant a god. Long ago, when Naya lived in the orphanage, the one caretaker that treated her with any semblance of love, Gladia, was always speaking of the generous God that she worshipped and reading passages from some old book. Could it be possible that this man knew something about that loving God? After examining the carving further, she handed it back to Aldenor. "I have one just like it back home," she said, returning the leather bag to its owner now that she had money for dinner. Aldenor's eyes opened wide in surprise. "If you speak the truth, please show me. I must see it." The totems of the great tree were not meant for those who were not members of the Covenant, and were only ever given to the reverends. Aldenor wanted to know why such a sacred artifact had fallen into the hands of a random woman who was not even aware of the existence of his religion. A twinge of nervousness crept into Naya as she weighed her options. She'd never brought anybody to her hideout before, and what judgment would she face if this man saw the way that she lived? In addition, what if he tried to take her own totem? What if he attacked her? She had seen the knife that was stowed in his knapsack. Despite these potential risks, Naya's curiosity was greater than her fear, and she decided she would show the man. Naya eyed Aldenor warily, examining his body language. He did not appear to have ill intent, and he had chosen not to apprehend her upon reaching her. Perhaps he was a good man, a rare commodity within the walls of Stonereach. "Follow me," she said, then turned away to lead him to her unimpressive home. Aldenor followed the thieving woman to a tight alley nestled between two brick buildings. The alley appeared to have been neglected for a very long time, congested with junk and debris. They weaved their way to the end of it where the woman crouched down and slid under a series of planks that had been fastened across a doorless entryway. Puzzled, he stood there, taking in the beaten-down dwelling. "Are you coming?" the woman asked from inside, her face visible through a broken window. "This is where you live?" Aldenor asked, his bewilderment evident in his tone. The woman responded with an irritated stare. "What is your name, miss?" Aldenor inquired while lowering himself to clear the obstacle that guarded the doorway. The woman was rolling up a small rug in the corner of the room. The room's interior was littered with various odds and ends in a similar fashion to that of the alleyway. A pile of straw made its centerpiece. Once the rug was rolled and placed against the wall, Naya fished her hand into the small hole it was hiding. "Naya," she replied. "I don't know my family name." "Are you an orphan?" Aldenor hesitated as Naya retracted her pinkyless hand from the hole. "Yes," she replied. "I never knew my parents." "You have my deepest sympathy," said Aldenor, his empathetic eyes more focused on the woman than the item that was sheltered by her closed fist. "My father died when I was very young, my mother when I was 17 years. I suppose I am an orphan myself." Naya stood with her fist curled around the totem, staring at the first person she had ever brought to her home. Her heart pinged with a blend of intense emotions from the events of the day. First, the rejection of her first and only friend. Now the kindness of this man, which reflected that of the priest she had stolen from a couple of years prior. A tear welled up in her eye, a desperate attempt by her emotions to be freed. Without hesitation, Naya reached up and brushed away the liquid before it could run down her cheek. Aldenor's expression widened with amazement as Naya uncurled her fingers, revealing an almost exact replica of his own prized possession, a small wooden carving of the great tree. Instantly, upon its sight, he could feel that warm, familiar embrace of hope. "I don't believe it," Aldenor said. "How did you come upon this totem?" Naya looked to the floor, trying to avoid Aldenor's eyes as she was assaulted with guilt. She began, forcing herself to suppress the tears. "It was given to me by a priest." "A reverend of the Covenant would not give away such a sacred item," Aldenor explained, but not in anger. "They alone are to hold the totems." Naya braced herself initially upon this revelation, then relaxed as Aldenor did not appear to intend on taking the sculpture from her. "What is it?" she asked, her gaze met with the totem's comforting aura. "I can tell there's something special about it, something magical." Aldenor unshouldered his knapsack and dug through it, pulling out his own copy of the item. The room was now enveloped in an even stronger and visible essence of hope as the totem was met with its twin. "They are carvings of the great tree," Aldenor explained. "It is the symbol of my religion. Several of them were made very long ago, and they were blessed by Saranath himself in the days when he lived on Ernthal amongst his people." "By who?" Naya asked, now comparing the two sculptures. "Saranath, the god of vitality and youth," said Aldenor. "His followers are joined with him in covenant, and in return he grants us with vigor and hope." Naya was drawn to this description of Aldenor's god and religion. Her entire life she had dreamed of more and had spent countless hours contemplating what could be beyond the walls of Stonereach. This behavior was strengthened by Gladia's stories of her loving God. While the rest of the caretakers in the orphanage had been cold, unloving, and often even cruel, Gladia was always there with a shoulder to cry on. She attempted to make the orphans happy, while the others simply kept them alive. Naya was certain that Gladia's kindness and love had to be a direct result of her belief in her god. Now, Aldenor treated Naya with kindness and spoke of what sounded to be a similar god, if not the same one. Naya, Aldenor began, there was once a chapel in this city, dedicated to Saranath. Will you take me to where it was? There were many chapels in Stonereach, dedicated to many different gods. When Thalric became king, he ordered for the destruction of them all. Why? Aldenor asked, once again perplexed by the news of this bizarre decree. Why would he destroy people's places of worship? Thalric loathes religion and does not believe in gods, Naya responded. He believes religion is a poison that infects people's minds and spreads like fire. Apparently, some religious group was sacrificing animals, which Thalric decreed is illegal, along with other practices. Aldenor paced from wall to wall, holding his chin in contemplation. The Covenant is not a poison, and the sacrifices are necessary, he stated. It was you who were killing the animals in the chapel? Naya asked, taking a step back in alarm. We offer tribute to Lord Saranath. In return, he grants us his promised gift of vitality. This is our covenant. Naya flattened against the wall behind her in horror, disturbed by the revelation of the covenant's practices. At her core, it felt wrong, but was it? Had she herself not killed the occasional rodent that intruded into her home? Had she not sometimes killed birds to take home and cook over candle flame in times of desperation? Perhaps this was not much different. A god granting good health in exchange for the occasional sacrifice of an animal? The way Aldenor spoke of his god, this Saranath, was quite positive. Aldenor himself was kind so far and appeared to be non-threatening. Maybe King Thalric was wrong about religion. If you are willing, I would greatly appreciate you showing me where the chapel was located, Aldenor said. I can probably do that, Naya reluctantly replied. She didn't know which chapel belonged to which group, but she knew where the remains of each were located. Naya's shelter had grown dark as the sun began to disappear. It was less safe to wander the city at night, but she was more than comfortable with it. I will take you to the ruins, she said, then passed Aldenor and walked to the boarded-off doorway. Aldenor once again found himself ducking under the sloppily applied planks and following Naya. He hoped he could find some surviving relics in the rubble of the destroyed chapel. He needed to get moving and continue his journey, but felt certain this was a worthwhile detour that Saranath himself would approve of. Resolute in this decision, Aldenor followed Naya into the approaching dusk that engulfed Stonereach. A humble priest sent on a mission by his god. A lonely thief trying to find her way in the world. A wizard's apprentice on a quest for liberation. Follow Aldenor, Naya, and Anna as they venture through Erdania and uncover the hidden truth of the Covenant of Renewal, a dying religion with a gray morality. Read the hit book, The Price of Renewal, by Austin Buffington, available on Amazon.